Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken. Today, guys, we are talking Jaws: The Revenge on 4K UHD. We are completing the Jaws franchise on 4K, guys, with this final review in the franchise. Aren't you excited? I'm excited to talk about this. But look, guys, there's not as much to talk about with this one, I will admit, as there was with Jaws 3, which I did review a few days ago. If you missed that, go check it out. But this one is an interesting one to talk about because of the movie, because people's thoughts on the movie. Are people going to pick this up? Do they feel the need to upgrade this one to 4K? How does the 4K look? We're going to talk about that in this video. Does it have the same problems as Part 3? And this one, look, it puts a cap on the franchise, both as a movie and as a 4K release. So I want to talk about it in that sense. And I do want to go back and just talk about all the Jaws films on 4K in a retrospective sense. Just kind of giving a comprehensive look at these movies on 4K since the first one came out back in 2020. I think that would be interesting. But we are talking Jaws: The Revenge primarily. But before we get into it, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the like button. Then comment down below, guys. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the movie Jaws: The Revenge. Will you be picking this up? Will you be grabbing the standard version for $24.99 or the Steelbook for $29.99? Now, that's the Groove prices, not the Amazon prices. Amazon is a little bit more expensive. The Steelbook's going for $39 on Amazon, and the standard edition without the slipcover, by the way. Apparently, Universal's putting out the standard editions without slipcovers, but the standard editions are going for $29.99, I think, on Amazon. But I'll link everything down below, guys. You can make your own choice where you want to get it from, but I do recommend Groove because they have the lower price point. Now, you can also get Jaws 3 and Jaws: The Revenge and Jaws 2 on 4K in a nice 3-pack set. Not the first one is included because Steven doesn't want that included with the Jaws sequels. You can get that as well, and that is also cheaper on Groove versus Amazon. So I do want to make sure you guys know that. And there's still, I think, plenty of copies available of the Jaws Steelbooks and the standard editions as well. But all right, let's go ahead and dive into Jaws: The Revenge. I do want to talk about the movie for a second. So this came out in 1987. Like I said, I grew up with these films. I watched them all the time. I marathoned these movies. I know that when I got, look, I knew when I was a kid, when I got to Jaws: The Revenge, it was not as exciting. It was a little boring. It did not keep my interest as much as the other Jaws films. This one kind of took it back to basics. It's a little slower moving. It's a little bit more character driven. There's more emotion in this movie, I feel like. Well, there's emotion in the other films as well, but this movie really tries to play into the emotional drama of it, just kind of bringing Ellen Brody back and bringing the Brody kids into it. And there's a tragedy that happens in the very beginning of the film. Not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it. Maybe people haven't seen Jaws: The Revenge because they heard it's one of the worst movies ever made and they want to watch it for the first time and not be spoiled. So I'm not going to spoil that for you. I will say this is not one of the worst movies ever made. I don't even think it's the worst sequel ever made. Is it the worst of the 4 Jaws movies? Yes. Yes, it is. But to be honest, I still don't think it's a terrible movie. It's definitely a goofy, ridiculous setup for the story of this film. You know, you have the shark that's out for revenge against the Brody family, which is just completely outlandish and ridiculous and makes absolutely no sense. I'm not going to sit here and try to argue the merits of the story in Jaws: The Revenge, but I will say, if you just suspend your disbelief enough, if you just take that out of it, I do think this is actually a decent film. I like Lance Guest. You know, he was in Halloween 2 and also The Last Starfighter. And I like him as the son and the father and the husband. I feel like he plays like a good central character to this movie. Is he the main character of the film? I think they wanted Lorraine Gray, Ellen Brody, to be the main character because notoriously they rushed this film because they knew they needed a hit after Howard the Duck. And one of the executives, you know, was married to Lorraine Gray, who plays Ellen Brody. So he was like, look, the Aliens movies, they're doing good. You got Sigourney Weaver, lead female, badass chick. Let's get my wife back to the franchise and she can fight Jaws, the shark, in this one. And that'll bring the audience in because that's what they want now. So I do think that's kind of interesting for sure. And look, I think that Lorraine Gray is a fine actress in the first 2 Jaws movies. In this movie, though, she definitely overacts a lot. I know her character's going through grief, going through a lot. I get that. But there's moments where she just breaks down and starts crying just at the most random times. And it makes absolutely no sense why she would be crying at that specific moment and then have a smile on her face in the next moment. So I did notice that, like rewatching it this time. So it's not a great performance, but I do think Lance Guest is really good in this movie. I don't know his wife's name in the film, but I think she's good as the generic wife character. And you have Michael Caine in this movie as well, who notoriously only did this movie so he could buy a house. That's what he says. So, but Michael Caine's in it, so it brings a certain level of prestige to the movie for sure. But yeah, I don't think it's bad. It calls back to the original a lot. It makes it feel like everything's kind of coming full circle. So I do appreciate it for that as well. You know, you have Lance Guest who's playing Mike Brody, who's grown up and has a kid of his own. You had the scene where they're at the dinner table and he's like doing that facial hand gestures and his kid's copying him. So they're calling back to the original a lot in this one. And it's honestly, you know, a little bit too overplayed, I would say. And it's a little obvious that they're trying to gain those nostalgic points. But I don't know, it has a certain level of charm to it. And it's not like the most well done, but I think it does make this movie feel in spirit kind of like the first one more than the other two sequels do. So I do appreciate Jaws the Revenge for that. So I don't think this is a terrible movie. I think people are a little too hard on it. One of the worst movies of all time. I can think of a lot worse than Jaws the Revenge. It's okay. It's a passable Jaws sequel. Let's get into the actual 4K restoration here, which is a native 4K. It has HDR10, but does not have Dolby Vision. And to be honest, guys, like, this is a great 4K. It honestly is. I really think I like Jaws 2 on 4K, and I'm going to rank them here at the end. I like Jaws 2 on 4K, but I think it's the best 4K since the first one. I think it's kind of on par with the first film on 4K. It just has a really nice, clean look to it. And when they're in the actual ocean on the boat, like, I just feel like it has the same look and the same feel as the first one did on 4K. Now, I will say the mechanical shark in 4K in this movie versus the first one, totally different, because they did not give a crap with Jaws the Revenge. They had 10 months to film this movie. The story says they got the same mechanical shark from the theme park ride at Universal Studios. I don't know if that's true or not, but like when that thing jumps out of the water, you can tell it's totally like riding on some kind of machine. You can tell how it's worked. It totally takes you out of it. You do not buy into this shark as an actual shark for a second. You can see all the puppeteering behind it, all the strings to this shark puppet you can see and make out. Not literal strings, but metaphorical strings. I know it's being operated by some kind of machine under the ocean, but it doesn't feel real at all. It feels like an actual studio prop that's just coming up. Like, there's a scene where this thing's just like chomping at a boat like this, and it doesn't feel real or animalistic at all, or something that an actual shark would do. It's just like chomping at the boat and like eating it. It's so ridiculous. So the actual shark looks terrible. He looks good. Like, he looks good in 4K, but because you can see it a lot better in 4K, it looks terrible, and you notice those flaws. So, but guys, it's a real clean, like, crisp picture. You don't have all the issues that you had with Jaws 3 and the 3D effect and all that kind of stuff. And I honestly feel like because the Jaws 3 was filmed for 3D, there was something going on with that, and they just could not get that properly restored, and that's why they felt like they had to use the AI and all that stuff, and that's why Jaws 3 turned out the way that it did, whereas Jaws the Revenge is a more classically filmed movie, shot on film, and there's not a lot of gimmick to this. So because of that, this is a really nice, really clean, crystal clear 4K restoration I can't see anybody having an issue with. Like I said, it may be, it's not the best. I think the first one's definitely the best, but it may be the second best 4K in the franchise of 4Ks from Universal is Jaws the Revenge. So really nice looking 4K. Another thing I want to call out, and I thought this was really funny. So when you get to the end and they're out on the boat and they're fighting the shark and everything, and all that. I don't want to go into what happens, but they're all kind of drifting and swimming around, and you can tell they're on a set. They're on a set swimming in some kind of a pool because you can see the wall behind them. That's supposed to be the cloud, supposed to be the horizon, but you can see the wall. It reminds me of the Truman Show when I'm watching it because you can see that wall. Now, I did pop in the Blu-ray, and you can kind of tell the wall's there, but I think it's only because I know the wall's there after watching the 4K. When you're watching the 4K, like that ending scene, guys, when you're seeing the clouds, that's a wall. You can totally tell that's a wall because you're watching it in 4K in that higher definition. Now, getting into the sound, they did upgrade this one to the 7.1, same as Part 3. I think the only one of this franchise they didn't upgrade was Jaws 2 for some reason, but Jaws 3 got the 7.1, Jaws the Revenge got the 7.1. So audio, your audio nuts out there, people with the elaborate setups, you got to be happy about that. Now, I'm just listening to this on a soundbar and a subwoofer that kind of simulates that 7.1. All sounded great to me. Like I said, when the shark comes out, it looks like crap. It looks terrible. But when it's like growling and stuff and it's chomping away at the boats, like all that stuff sounds great. And now getting into a little bit of an unboxing right here. Really nice steelbook. I like this one. Now, a lot of people were making fun of Ellen's face right there, just with the hair whipping in it and how it kind of looked really terrible. I don't really mind it too much because I still think it matches the artwork that's pretty consistent with all the other steelbooks. But you flip it to the back, you got the boat, which is a really nice image. Open it up, you got the digital code in here. You do have a Blu-ray and a 4K. And this Blu-ray, guys, because I got this question on Jaws 3, and it's the same with Jaws 3. This Blu-ray is not upgraded at all. It's the exact same Blu-ray as Jaws the Revenge, which, by the way, Jaws the Revenge on Blu-ray, because Jaws 3 on Blu-ray, guys, is unwatchable in my opinion. Jaws the Revenge on Blu-ray, it's fine. It's okay. It's not the worst Blu-ray I've ever seen, but it's definitely a huge upgrade to 4K for sure. So I did want to call that out. But that's the exact same Blu-ray that's in that 4K. And then you take out the disc, guys, just so I can give you the full picture of the interior artwork of this 4K set. So really nice steelbook though. I do like these steelbooks. I'm glad that I have them. Getting into the bonus materials, guys, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. There's some trailers and that's about it. So that's pretty disappointing. Nothing new on Jaws the Revenge as far as special features, and nothing on Jaws 3 as far as special features as well. But going back to the Blu-ray, and also, guys, I got the DVD, and I didn't remember this, but I also do have the DVD for Jaws 3, which I've been meaning to check out to see if this is actually better than the Blu-ray. But I do have Jaws the Revenge on DVD and also Blu-ray, and there's nothing in terms of special features on these as well. So I guess nobody ever felt compelled to go back and talk about Jaws the Revenge. They just want to forget about it. Is that the way it is? Fair enough, I guess. But Jaws the Revenge, nothing as far as bonus materials and special features, which, guys, look, at this stage in the game, it's like, come on, you're putting this stuff out. You're charging good money for it. Like, give us something, a couple of new interviews, something. That's all I ask. Studios, boutique labels, all of you all. But let's look, guys. I think that the Jaws franchise, for the most part, when I look back at the Jaws films on 4K, I'm going to think of it in mostly a positive way. I think that most of these movies, in my opinion, Jaws 3, like, it looks really good. Like, especially when you compare it to the Blu-ray, it's just the AI stuff is very hard to overlook now that I know it. But I think I'll look back on the Jaws films on 4K fondly. I think that overall, Universal did a good job. Now, let me do a little ranking for you guys, and then we'll get the heck out of here. Coming at number 4 is Jaws 3 for sure. If it wasn't for the AI controversy, guys, I think parts of this look good. Go check out my review, but I think parts of this look really good on 4K. I'd honestly say 85 to 90% of it looks really great on 4K, and then the other 10% is ruined by all the AI stuff. And then there's some character faces that don't look the most natural, I will say. But Jaws 3, that's my number 4, obviously. Coming at number 3, guys, this one may surprise you, but I'll say Jaws 2. I'll say Jaws 2 comes in at number 3. I remember this one being a strong 4K, but not as good as the first one. And this one has, I think they shot it in a different location. It wasn't the same as the first one. It was in a more like sunny location. So you kind of had this orange like aesthetic and tint to this, I feel like, throughout, that just doesn't feel like Jaws to me. So Jaws 2 on 4K, I think is number 3 is a good spot for that one. Then we got Jaws the Revenge coming in at number 2, guys. I really thought this was a great 4K. I thought they did a really good job with Jaws the Revenge on 4K. And then coming in at number 1, obviously, like if you're going to want, you know, one film in this franchise to look the best and be one of the best 4Ks that has ever been put out, one of the best restorations that has ever been done, you want it to be the first one. So at least they delivered on the first Jaws movie on 4K. And this is not just the best 4K of this franchise. This is one of the best 4Ks that has ever been put out as far as classic film restorations. I would honestly maybe put it in my top 5, definitely my top 10. But Jaws is definitely number 1. But guys, look, that's my review. Jaws the Revenge. Just the Jaws movies, the franchise as a whole, I wanted to talk about in kind of a retrospective sense. So thank you all for entertaining my review on Jaws the Revenge. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on bell notifications for all future videos, and we'll see you next time.